You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Wood.
And I'm Jennifer Connor.
From Equestrian Businesswomen, and you're listening to Equestrian B2B, the podcast that brings together industry leaders, entrepreneurs, and equestrians for conversations about how they build and sustain a successful business.
On today's show, we speak to two veterinarians about building their businesses, the challenges and the rewards of their businesses, and the state of veterinary medicine.
Keelan Redmond was born with a love for animals. She raised goats, turkeys, chickens, and other farm animals and was a competitive equestrian by age 11. In the 6th grade, she decided to become a veterinarian, a path from which she never strayed. Following undergraduate work at the University of Kentucky, Keelan attended veterinary school at Auburn University. After an internship at New Jersey Equine Clinic, she began her career in private practice with a focus on the equine athlete. Keelan practices integrated equine sports medicine in Aiken, South Carolina. In addition, she is the founder of Medica Veterinary Products, a line of natural ingredient skin products for horses and dogs.
Dr. Dinah Skorich has always loved animals, especially horses. She knew from a young age that she wanted to be a veterinarian and achieved this goal in 2011 with a degree from NC State University College of Veterinary Medicine with a strong interest in equine surgery, the racing industry, and sports medicine. After school, she completed an equine surgical and ambulatory internship at Ocala Equine Hospital in Ocala, Florida, where she further developed her interest in lameness and the thoroughbred industry. During her internship, Dr. Skorich also completed the equine acupuncture course at the Chi Institute, now Chi University, to add to her growing interest in treating equine performance horses. After her internship, she moved to New York and joined a large equine ambulatory practice, developing her interest in standardbred racehorses, as well as hunters and jumpers. Dr. Skorich then became certified in equine veterinary spinal manipulation, commonly referred to as equine chiropractic, and equine rehabilitation and sports medicine. In 2018, she left general equine practice to pursue her dream and start Equilibrium Veterinary Services, a practice focused on a balance of complementary medicine, sports medicine, and equine rehabilitation. A lifelong student, she started her master's in traditional Chinese veterinary medicine from Chi University at the beginning of 2020, with a primary focus on horses, although she has started seeing bovine, canine, and feline patients. Dr. Skorich has her own zoo with 2 dogs, several kitties, several horses, 2 ferrets, and a snake. In her personal time, she enjoys reading, music, and riding when possible.
Hi, guys. We're so excited to have you on the podcast today to talk to you about your business and, how you guys both work in equine veterinary industry and learn more about what you do. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go ahead and jump right in and talk to you guys about the challenges that women face in the equine veterinary medicine. So Dinah, do you want to go ahead and start?
Sure. I guess one of the biggest challenges I started noticing right off, starting in more of an equine racetrack practice, was the fact that I'm not a man. And that is a big deal on the track with a lot of the trainers. So dealing with that, starting out was a little bit tough. Not so much at the thoroughbred, training centers, because I was with mentors at the time. But when I moved to New York and had to start kind of from scratch with the standardbred trainers, it was definitely a little frustrating at times because they were very blatantly sexist. I was definitely not as smart as the male vets that came before me, and it would just get really frustrating when I would say one thing, and then, a male veterinarian would come along, say the same thing. And they'd be like, yeah, he said this. I'm like, yeah, so did I, but I didn't hear that. So that was, I think, probably one of the biggest things for me starting in veterinary medicine.
Is that something that shocked you, or did you kind of have an idea that was going to be an issue for you?
I thought it was going to be an issue a little bit starting out, but even now, 11 years later, I get that attitude somewhat. And they're like, well, there's a really good friend of mine, Dr. Kiefer, Jake Kiefer, who is a few years younger than me and has not been doing this quite as long. I trained him with the whole standard bred stuff, and they will defer to what he wants to do because he's a man, quite frankly. And that's how I feel. And maybe I'm misinterpreting it, but if they ask me if I can do X, Y, Z because Jake can do it. And I'm like, well, yeah, who do you think taught Jake how to do that? So that's it. Yeah. I still find that is the case occasionally, but now that I know a lot of these clients more, it happens less often because they know and trust me, but I do still get the, oh, well, a man can do it better attitude. More so on the racetrack, I think.
Mm. And Keelan, how about for you? What were some of the challenges for women in the equine medicine?
I mean, I would echo 100% Dinah's experience. And I would even go so far as to say, I left racetrack practice thinking I would encounter it less in show horse practice. And I'm here to tell you, chauvinism is alive and well in the show horse world.
Wow.
Even amongst the majority of my clients are women. It doesn't lend the credibility you would assume that it would. They, believe me, feel much more reassured by being told by a man. So, exactly as Dinah had said, I echo her sentiment 100%. And then I would just add to that, it's a very physical job.
Mm-hmm.
I think women tend to be smaller framed than your average woman is smaller framed than your average man. And I think that introduces a host of challenges that the first 5 years, I feel like, speaking for myself, I was a bit raw about it. But you put a dozen and 15 and 18 years of wear and tear on that body, and you realize they're big animals. The equipment's big. You know what I mean? It's heavy, it's big, they're big, and it's very repetitive. And the physicality of it, I think, is challenging for women. And it's one of those things that we don't want to talk about straight away because it makes it sound like we can't do the job. We can, but you got to start being smart about the physicality probably on day 0.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree with that. And I actually, doing a lot of chiropractic or spinal manipulation work, I work on quite a few very large animals, horses that are 14 to 1,700 pounds. I do a few drafts. It's hard on my body. And,
and break you.
Compared to a pony, I love working on ponies now. I really didn't have a preference before, but now I'm like, oh, you want me to work on your tiny little show pony? Absolutely. But yeah, I agree with that, especially with the years of wear and tear. I don't know about you, Keelan, but I definitely have a regular chiropractic and therapeutic massage appointment for myself. Otherwise, I can't function.
Same. Absolutely the same. And a stretching regimen.
Yes. I'm so bad about that, but yeah.
Aren't we all? Yeah, I think we kind of had a similar discussion when we had women farriers on. I mean, it's the same kind of thing of the damage to the body and how long you can do the job and how smart you have to be about it. Yeah. So I think that's a really good point for women who are, interested in becoming vets to think about and to prepare for.
Yeah.
And do you think both of you, it just took time to overcome the challenges of dealing with clients who didn't want to take your word for things and just making relationships stronger so they could trust you?
Yeah, I think so. You can go ahead, Keelan. You go first.
Yes, time, proven track record, relationships. But I think feminists have been saying this for years, which is it's not good enough to be as good as the guys. You have to be better.
Yeah.
You have to be better.
Yeah.
You have to do more CE, more practice, be better read on the paper, show up, do a better job, get better results. And that'll get you a place. But, you
still kind of feel like it's never good enough though, sometimes with certain clients. And despite I have way more experience in terms of years and, adjunct therapies like acupuncture and chiropractic and rehab. And still sometimes it's not good enough. But I feel like that's probably one of the reasons why I keep trying to learn more and do more so I can be better and hopefully, I hate to say prove myself, but almost prove myself on paper to these people. But I have also gotten to the point where I'm like, you know what? If you're not confident in my ability, don't call me.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say
that.
Don't call me.
Those clients will attenuate because they attenuate themselves or because we do it for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think, if you get to a certain point, no matter what your job is, if you've had enough experience and knowledge in what you're doing, and if the people who hire you don't trust you, then, I've said that before as well. Like, why are you paying me if you don't want to do what I say you should do? Because I'm supposedly the expert and here's my recommendation and you don't trust in me to do that. But then, you also have to be at the point where you can let clients and customers go, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a hard balance, I'm sure. Keelan, what made you decide to become a solo practitioner, and what did you consider when you were going out on your own?
I can't say that I necessarily set out to become a solo practitioner. I think, it was a while ago now. It was 2008 or 2009. I think my intention at the time was to just be solo briefly and then to add an associate, very much the American veterinarian dream of how to grow a practice. Mm-hmm. And then once I got into the rhythm of it, I ended up liking it and sticking with it. But I can't say that I set out to become a solo practitioner with this big sort of decision tree that led me there. Mm-hmm. Consideration that did not cross my mind, and I wish it had, is I don't know what vet school's like now, but at the time we had 0.0 training in running a business. Yeah. Like I didn't understand how any of it worked. I didn't understand receivables and inventory and financing, and that was a steep learning curve.
I agree with that 100%. And Keelan, I'm not sure how big of a practice you were working with prior to going out on your own, but like we had somebody that did all the business side of things, or several people that were doing the business side of things. And then all of a sudden you have to figure out how to do it all by yourself on top of seeing appointments.
Yeah, exactly.
It's incredibly overwhelming. And at the time I decided to go out on my own, I didn't have anybody to talk to ask questions. And that was very scary. Like trying to figure out if I could remotely run a business on top of being a veterinarian.
Yeah.
But are there groups or businesses that can help you do that now, since you've left and you've kind of figured it out yourself? Are there resources for other vets now that that you can recommend to them or that they can look for to get advice if they were in your position?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's becoming a little bit more of a thing to have like some consulting type businesses. But I have also, a couple friends of mine ended up entering solo practice locally. After I did that, they probably did it 2 to 3 years after I had already stepped out on my own. So I turned into that person for them, which I wish I had had me essentially. But I feel like it's nice to give back to colleagues who are trying to figure it out and are just kind of at a loss of what to do. Because I was definitely at a loss, and I think I made some mistakes along the way. I'm still here, so I guess it worked out okay. But it is nice to be able to talk to other solo practitioners and get things figured out. I think Facebook has turned into a great resource too.
Yeah, I was just going to say
veterinary groups, right?
Yeah. I was just going to say that Equine Vet to Vet Facebook page.
Yes.
Those,
100%.
for the most part, tend to be a very supportive, a surprisingly supportive community of each other. They're very open with their questions and answers. And that's that's what everybody needs, right? Just that someone's open and honest with their own experiences. And that's a good resource too.
Yeah, it's obviously the parallels between the careers of a farrier and a vet, I think, are pretty similar in terms of, the trajectory. And we talked about the exact same thing. There was, a woman who had been in the business for decades, and she said the same thing. She was like, farrier school taught me how to be a farrier, not a businesswoman. But now, she's been a mentor this whole time since. And one of the things that she teaches, interns that come to her is how to do all of that business side of things in addition to the farrier work. So, I think coming along in, maybe the past decade is that feeling of having to give back. And I think women are kind of leading that in being the mentors that we wanted when we were younger. And I think that's cool to hear that you guys are kind of doing the same thing.
Trying.
I know. It's how many hours do you have in the day, right?
Not enough.
Do you think that the vet schools are starting to listen to people like you and implement more business into the schools?
That's a great question. I have no idea what goes on in the veterinary school curriculum at the moment.
I had a couple of veterinary student externs a few months ago, and they mentioned a little bit of business stuff, but it almost seemed more like personal financy. You're graduating with $400,000 in student loans. Let us tell you how to deal with that. And, so I don't know that it's so much the actual business finance side of things, but my impression from them is there's not enough, if there is any.
Yeah. I definitely think that can be a little more stressful than even learning the vet medicine part. I mean, you guys are animal lovers, so you have a certain love for it and desire to learn it and brain capacity for that. And then to throw in like the business side of it seems like that can be a little difficult.
Yeah, it's really stressful. It's really stressful because you essentially have to have 2 full-time jobs.
Right. Yeah. The life of the entrepreneur. The work that you're doing and the work that supports the work.
Yeah.
So can we go ahead and talk about your staff? Keelan, do you have staff?
I have one vet tech. And that's what I sort of have had for years, just one tech. She helps me in seeing patients and the actual, nuts and bolts of the job. She sets up and breaks down equipment like diagnostic equipment and, sort of joint injection protocols and everything else. And she's invaluable in that way, that having someone do setup and breakdown while I do something else helps efficiency exponentially. And to get back to that physicality thing, it also helps with that, like schlepping the x-ray machine and everything. That helps with the wear and tear component a great deal. And she manages inventory, and that's all. Everything else is me invoicing, paying vendors, ordering inventory, etc. Everything else is me. She helps with the business of practice itself. And that's it. But it is of tremendous help to me logistically in terms of efficiency. And believe it or not, I think if you have the right person in that, for me, when I have the right person in that spot, it helps the mood of things tremendously. If you have a chipper, optimistic person who enjoys the work, it's really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
What does your staff look like, Dinah?
So I have one part-time vet tech who does pretty much the same that Keelan's does, as well as being my work wife and truck therapist. My chief safety officer, she yells at me all the time when I'm doing very dangerous things.
Carefully, though, right? Dangerous things carefully.
Do dangerous things very carefully. Sometimes not so carefully. But yeah, so I really don't know where I would be without her. But she also, for some of the rehab patients I have, she will do those treatments for me if she's of best use, in the barn, treating them. Like, she doesn't need me around to laser or shockwave or whatever. If I have to go run and do some other things. So I have her. I also have a college kid who does my stalls, and she is, I think, what all of us used to be when we were younger and very excited about, the barn. She's very enthusiastic. She loves the horses. I mean, we all still love the horses, but she's like, yeah, I'll do stalls. Yeah, I could do them at 10 o'clock at night or at 6 o'clock in the morning. And I'm just like, great. Thank you so much. I'm not that excited. But I don't know what I would do without either of them, especially when I go out of town for work. So, it's cool watching the college kid kind of grow and, figure out what she wants to do with her life and still be enthusiastic where we're all tired and cranky. Adulting.
I was going to ask you about the dynamic of it, having another woman or other women with you. How does that dynamic work?
I like having a good group of women because it feels like we can figure things out without having some muscle around, because there's multiples of us if necessary, but also it's just kind of this cool camaraderie that you have with other women. And there's a little different perspective, I think, with a younger person there. Like the other day, the college kid was saying something about middle-aged horsewomen, and Jess and I started laughing because we are the middle-aged horsewomen she's talking about. So, there's a generation difference, and it kind of makes us laugh, and there's a variety of experiences there, and it's just fun having other women that are interested in similar things around together, working together.
I often look around at the younger women that I know, and I feel very proud of the women that they're becoming, because I
Yes.
knew them when they were younger and they were doing IEA, or, I babysat for them, and the things that they're doing. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm pretty proud of them for how they're doing. And actually sometimes I am envious of them in the way that they're able to balance things a little bit better. Like, they are able to make boundaries a little bit better than like I know I can.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
interesting.
And Keelan, how about you? How's your dynamic work?
I think, it's been very helpful to me to be around other people, because the work can become quite solitary, it really can. And it helps keep morale up. It's a good thing for the most part. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's hard being, an entrepreneur working by yourself. And, when I started my own business, I had interns, but I didn't really have anyone working full time with me for a little while. And then once I did, it was so nice just to have somebody to like proofread for me, or, bounce ideas off of, or, just be able to complain about stuff. Didn't have somebody understand the situation. So I definitely think, that helps when you're starting out to have somebody, but as the business progresses, to have that support there. And so Keelan, you started out, working in a bigger practice as well, right? Before you went on your own.
I did. So I worked for a 4-doctor practice, and then I worked for a 3-doctor racetrack practice in Kentucky. And that was the step right before going out on my own, was that 3-doctor practice.
And what do you think is the biggest difference? I know we talked about, having to handle all the business side. Would you say that's still the biggest difference of working in a bigger clinic versus on your own?
It may be the biggest practical difference, but it's not what I think of first. Like, what I think of first is that solo practitioner feeling of living on an island. In both of the practices that I worked in, I was lucky enough to work with really lovely veterinarians, and they were always sort of kicking around the office, and you could show them a radiograph and be like, what do you think? And everybody's sort of more than happy to chitty chat about cases. And I think that makes you a good vet. And I think it keeps you fresh. And I do actually miss that, the input and ideas of colleagues. And there are ways around that. I mean, we can talk more about that, about reaching out outside of the practice, but it made it very easy. It's a bit like having a roommate in college. Like, at least you have someone who's like literally right there to talk to. Right. You don't have to seek them. You can make friends in college, but you do have to seek them a bit.
Yeah. So who do you rely on now when you need help like that, or you want some input?
I have, I'm lucky enough to have a small handful of friends and colleagues that are practitioners like me. And I also think that I have felt very supported by the specialists in my area. We have 2 referral centers in Aiken. We refer horses to a private practice in Tryon Equine, and we refer horses to the University of Georgia. And the surgeons and internal medicine specialists at both of those places have been exceptional to me. I have their cell. I can text them a photo. I can send them an image, and they'll call me back almost any time of day or night. And most of them are quite happy to chat with humility and interest and support. And that has been a resource I've taken a lot of advantage of over the last many years, and been grateful to have it.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And Dinah, do you see a big difference from working in a bigger clinic to working on your own as well?
Yeah, I think everything Keelan said, I agree with 100%. And I am lucky enough to have some great, surgeons and internal medicine specialists that are willing to, pick up the phone whenever I do need help. But I think one of the biggest differences for me working in a larger practice for someone versus by myself is I feel like I have more control of my own time. I'm always busy. It's not to say that I'm not like working or anything like that, but like one of the like really triggering moments that made me decide to go off on my own was one of my horses had 2 horrific abscesses going on in 2 different feet at the same time. Like it was like right front and left hind. Like literally could not walk. And she's a little bit of a delicate flower thoroughbred. So she was literally standing with 2 feet up in the air. And I was so busy running around doing all the things for someone else. I literally did not have time to soak my own horse's feet because I was always on calls. I was on seeing emergencies after hours. I had to do this. I had to do that. And I can't do this anymore. I can't take care of my own animals, what's the point?
Yeah.
So the biggest thing for me was being a solo practitioner. I could make time most of the time, not always, obviously, to do the things that I needed to do for myself, and not have to ask permission.
Mm-hmm. That is a definite benefit of being your own boss.
Yeah. And it just, sometimes I don't have the help that you would have with multiple colleagues, but I feel like I have within the same practice, but I feel like I have enough good friends and people to refer to that I still have almost that veterinary colleague family around me, even though we're not the same practice.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
We all try to help each other out.
That's great.
Yeah.
What would make being a solo practitioner better? Tina?
I need more time in the day.
Don't we all?
Yeah. But I mean, like, seriously, okay, I'm supposed to see, let's say I'm seeing 6 appointments today. Well, I saw 6 appointments. I had to drive. Now I have to do 6 appointments worth of paperwork and medical records and billing and sending off these radiographs or ultrasound images to someone else to, review or whatever, because I need help. It's a lot. I just need more time.
Is there anything besides being able to make your own schedule that you love about being a solo practitioner?
I love being able to stop at Starbucks whenever I want. Honestly, or ice cream or whatever, I like the fact that, if I want to do something different in my day, whether it is to do with a patient or personally, I have the freedom to do that without having to ask anyone's permission. I don't have to worry about, you can't do that because such and such needs to happen by such and such time. Well, if that's the case, that's me telling myself that, not someone else, not the office manager, not the receptionist and whatnot. But I think the freedom to adjust the schedule as needed for life, whether it is personal life or work life, is absolutely incredible about, being a solo practitioner.
Yeah. And it's nice when you're driving along and you see a new ice cream place and you can stop and enjoy it if you want, right?
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
That's how I feel about my job. I like to pick places. And when I'm driving by, I give myself enough time to stop and look at the beach or, look at the ocean or stop at, a little hiking place in the mountains. So I completely understand that. And Keelan, how about for you? What would make being a solo practitioner better?
You know what I've been thinking about a lot lately is empathy. I think the world needs more of it. And I think that what can make or break my day is how much or how little empathy I feel like I'm getting from the clients. And it's on a lot of levels. It's like, if we tell you we're going to be 40 minutes late because the last one just circled the drain on us,
right?
The thing that can help us or me the most is when someone says, "It's cool, Doc, I got you,"
Mm-hmm.
And the same goes the other way. Like, just be kind to us. Understand that when you cancel an appointment on us with 30 minutes notice, it really messes us up. It has a huge, be empathetic to the impact that you have on us. Be empathetic to the impact that your annoyance or even perceived annoyance has on us, your scheduling changes have on us. Be kind, understand us. And I think when a lot of people become very burned out on this profession, and I think a lot of the reason is because sometimes the clients aren't kind, sometimes the colleagues aren't kind. And I cannot tell you how much it helps when they are. And I would say it's related to what I love the most about the job as well, which is having, been lucky enough to have practiced in one area for 14 years. I have now some clients that have been with me 10 and 12 and 14 years. And I value those relationships hugely. Like, it's crazy to me that I've watched a lot of these people's kids grow up. Mm-hmm. I've watched them break a horse that's now going 2-star. I love that. Like, I know everything about their lives and they know a whole lot about mine. Like, I love those relationships. I love that when they have a problem, I am their go-to, not my receptionist, not my intern, not my boss. It's me and them in the trenches, man. And there are great parts to that, and there are terrible parts to that. But the great parts are incredible.
Your answer is way better than mine.
I also love Starbucks very, very much, as any tech I've ever had will attest to.
It's a little bit of a habit, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things that just gets you through the day, man.
Yeah.
And I think, we've touched on a lot of these ideas for my next question, about what could change in veterinary medicine, because I've heard from vets before, and, we had a panel of vets at the Saratoga Women in Business Spectacular Horse Show, and they all said the same thing about, getting burned out and leaving large animal to go to small animal because the money's better, and they come out of school with huge debt. And it seems like there's all these things kind of stacked against you in order to become a successful veterinarian, equine veterinarian. And I'm wondering, are there things that you guys have thought about that could change in your industry, and in order to keep from getting burned out and be able to stay doing what you love? And maybe Keelan, you could speak to it first.
I not to sound like a broken record, but I think kindness and empathy have the ability to change the world. Mm-hmm. I think a huge part of burnout, ask these veterinarians that are getting out, what happened? What happened today? What happened yesterday? And a lot of them will cite problems, butting heads with clients, butting heads with bosses, butting heads with support staff, butting heads with colleagues, and referral specialists. And the truth is, if we can all be a little bit kinder to each other and support each other better, the burnout is going to be less. And I don't think the money is an insurmountable object if people feel okay about their work and feel good about their work.
Yeah.
And I think it needs to happen and change on every level. I think we need to treat each other as veterinarians with kindness. I think when a not regular colleague calls me, not when a not regular client calls me and says, I'm a regular client of Dr. X. Dr. X is at the beach. Can you see the horse? My job is to say, absolutely, see it with a smile on my face, and then send it back to Dr. X on Monday. And if Dr. X can do that for me consistently, if we can all do that for each other, instead of being catty, instead of being annoyed, and instead of, God forbid, trying to snake the client, it will help. It will help if we can all help each other to have a life, and I think the same from the clients. When they call up and come to find out Dr. X is at the beach or I'm at the beach, be okay with it. Yeah. Your health certificate really can get done by someone else.
Yes.
And I will be back on Monday. Right. And you need me to go to the beach so that I can survive.
Totally.
And I think it's just knowing that and being aware that we are people too. Our colleagues need to be aware, our support staff needs to be aware, our clients need to be aware. And if we can all be respectful of what it takes to keep us all in it, I think it's survivable.
Mm-hmm. And Dinah, how do you feel about it? Is there things that you think could change or help?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. I think kindness is probably one of the biggest things from both clients and colleagues. I mean, for those of us that have left large animal or equine practice, it's never the horses. Never, ever is it the horses. It's the people. It's the people that burn you out. And it's taken me a bit to learn, but I think I still haven't learned it well yet, I guess, but boundaries, being able to set boundaries in veterinary medicine. Like, I have it set on my phone unless it is an emergency. I'm not going to respond to your text or your phone call unless it's Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And you have to train your clients, because a lot of them are used to, we'll use Dr. X. Dr. X responds at 11 p.m. at night. Oh no, Dr. Dinah is not going to respond at 11 o'clock at night or 5 o'clock in the morning. I don't care if you need your health certificate that you just thought of today. That's not an emergency for me. Mm-hmm. And I do have some amazing clients that I will bend over backwards for, but there is still a little bit of a boundary there, because that's how you get burnout. You have people pulling you in all directions at all hours of the day and night. And I think because of technology these days, everyone is used to instant gratification. And if I text someone at 3 o'clock in the morning, I should get a response back. I don't think so. I'm not doing that anymore. I used to do that, and I was super unhappy. And now that I have boundaries and I have most of my clients trained, very rarely does that happen. And I think it makes your life a lot easier. But I do think that being able to set boundaries is very important. And in that regard, I also try to respect everyone else's boundaries as far as colleagues go. Like, I'm not going to, text them or whatever super late at night unless it's an absolute emergency. But that's why, you have the on-call service and whoever's on call can reach out to you. I'm not going to, bother a random surgeon because he's my favorite surgeon or she's my favorite surgeon, So I think it goes both ways, like respect other people's time and be kind, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think, I'm not sure that if our listeners really understand this, but being that I'm in the pharmaceutical industry, I know that there's this big push for not one more vet. And we're pretty involved in that because there is a very high suicide rate for veterinarians. And I think that we really need to, as clients of veterinarians, think about how we are treating them so that we can be part of prevention and not part of the cause.
Yeah.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I know that's a definite issue that the industry is dealing with. And like Keelan said, just the kindness, I'm sure, goes a long way with people who have long days. And, being a vet, I'm sure, isn't easy, and always having to deal with animals in distress. That takes a toll on you, I'm sure.
It does, but I really think it's more the people. Yeah. In my case, anyway, I actually lost one of my very, very good classmates. We used to study together all the time to suicide a few years ago. And it was because of people not respecting time boundaries. Whether or not he set those boundaries, I'm not entirely sure. But it was also, people complaining about the cost of everything. And, like, oh, well, you're nickel and diming and it's so expensive. If you really loved the horse, you would do this cheaper or for free. And like, I'm sorry, my love for these animals cannot pay my bills.
Right.
I pay my employees more than I pay myself because that's the way it works when you're a business owner. Like I'm able to pay my bills and I'm very thankful for that, but I'm not doing this to get rich.
Yeah.
I never will.
I think you're exactly right. And I think, the question was a little bit, well, people are leaving the profession because the hours and the pay are bad. I don't think anyone cares that much about the money, because if I look at veterinarians that I know, none of us are living like kings. None of us have a private island. You know what I mean? Like everybody, totally. But unfortunately, bills have to get paid to just allow us to stay in it.
Right.
You know, and that there's no way around that, but no one got into it to get rich. And I don't know anyone who is rich from it. I know, people who have done well as they deserve to have when they've grown big practices or whatever else. But I don't know anybody who's private jet rich, lighting cigarettes with $100 bills.
No, absolutely not.
The
not
nicest even the most
thing,
successful.
Yeah. The nicest thing I've done for myself is I just got a brand new vet truck that has heated seats and a heated steering wheel because I'm working in New York in the wintertime. And like, I feel like I'm splurging on a Ford that has heated seats and a heated steering wheel.
So you bought yourself a piece of veterinary equipment, in essence.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
A business expense.
Gonna thaw me out when it's -5 degrees outside.
Girl, I could not do it. I'm crying at 50.
Same.
Well, that's why I go to Wellington once a month to thaw out.
I know that each of you has some ventures besides just being veterinarians. So can you talk a little bit about that? Keelan, you want to go ahead and start?
Yeah. So several years ago, I started a business, Medica Veterinary Products. I was frustrated with skin conditions, skin diseases in horses that I was treating in practice. I felt that we had no good over-the-counter treatments for rain rot, scratches, post-clipping bumps, facial hair loss, tail head rubbing, everything that happens on the skin. We could get prescription steroid creams made up as veterinarians, but you can't show on them. They're not accessible over the counter. They're very, very expensive. So I saw this hole and went about trying to fill it. and formulated a line of natural ingredients products that help to treat these skin conditions. And it's been an amazing ride. I've had a great time learning this new business and getting it off the ground. We've been very lucky. It's been operational for about a year and a half now, and I've been shocked by sales and growth and all of these things that have been really rewarding. I think it's a bit like raising a child, right? You see them grow up and you're a bit amazed that they can walk and talk on their own, and so that's been, Medica has been a very cool hustle for me.
Cool.
I love that stuff, by the way. I just recently was given one of the Medica shampoos to try, and it's amazing.
Oh my gosh, I will send you some more.
Oh, okay. I'm not going to say no to that. But like I have one of the horses in my barn has very sensitive skin and just like weird funk, no rhyme or reason to it. And we gave him a bath with that shampoo, I think, 2 days in a row, and his skin funk immediately cleared up. It was absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. So here's a plug for the Medica products. If you guys don't have them, go buy them because they are amazing.
That's great.
Thank you so much. And we have that lotion is a good product for New York in the winter too, because it doesn't require bathing. It works exactly like the treatment wash, but you can put it on dry and it does a great job without having to give them a bath. I'll send you some.
Awesome. Thanks.
And Dinah, I know you have a new venture that's kind of a big undertaking. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I'm not really sure if I'm stupid or or have the ability to see the potential, but right now I'm going to go with I'm stupid in doing this. So my very, very dear friends and landlords are retiring from the horse farm that I live on. They have sold it to someone that is keeping it a horse farm. And she, as well as my current landlords, asked me to manage the farm. So it's going to be a lot. I think I have great staff, so we're going to make it work, but it's going to be some boarders that are already here. And then I'm going to add a couple rehab clients to it because I have a couple rehabbers coming in, but managing an 80-acre farm should be really fun and or stupid. I'm not really sure which yet.
You're going to need some more enthusiastic college girls.
Yeah.
I think I might have just found one. So cross my fingers. Hopefully it all works out. But so I am doing the boarding rehab thing on the side of a regular, integrative vet practice anyway. So
nice.
I don't think it's stupid. I think it's great. And I can tell you a lot of horses that I've, done the vet work for injury rehabs and wished I had daily access to them. I think that's a huge,
it makes a really
benefit.
Big difference. I have one particular, he is now kind of stuck with me for life, I suppose. His owner is too afraid to move him. He should be dead right now. But he is pasture sound because everybody thought he was not going to, make it to even leave a stall ever. And he is pasture sound. And I know the only reason that is the case is because his owner said, whatever you need to do every day, do it. And that daily care and rehabbing makes the biggest difference for some of these horses.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's so exciting to hear that you both, have something, outside of your veterinary work, and we're so excited to see it grow and be successful as well.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So
thanks.
at the end of each episode, we have the same questions that we ask each guest, and Connor usually starts with the first.
Okay, so Dinah, what is one action that women can take to make a big difference in their lives?
Learn to say no.
I like that. That's
I really think, if you say yes to something and you're like, oh, I don't really want to do this. I'm not, I don't know when I'm going to be able to do it. It's going to be too hard. And you start resenting that decision.
Yes.
Why did you do it?
Yeah.
Just say no. You might feel guilty about it for 0.3 seconds and then be like, oh my God, I don't have to do that. This is awesome.
Yeah.
So I think learning to say no is really important. And I have definitely gotten a lot better about it. And I think I am happier for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Keelan, how about you?
I would say, to sort of borrow a Sheryl Sandberg bit, is lean in the beginning. Don't plan your career like you want to back out of it later. Jump in with both feet, buckle down as hard as you can. And I hope that will give you the leverage and the credibility to be able to say no later.
Yes, absolutely.
Lean in at first. Don't plan on half doing it in 10 years.
I completely agree with you.
That's true. I agree with that.
And Keelan, what is the best habit that keeps you motivated personally?
Riding my horse. It is the center of my universe, my horses and my dogs. I do the little low-level jumpers, and that adds a bit of sort of necessity and structure to it. Like I got to ride my horse, you know what I mean? And that keeps me motivated. It helps me set boundaries with the work because it is a huge priority to me. I love it. I mean, I'm a long ways from jumping a Grand Prix, but even the little low level I do it at is super helpful to me.
That's great. And Dinah, how about you? What's the best habit that keeps you motivated personally?
Since I cannot ride my horses right now because they're broken, I cannot agree with that statement, but I have a little bit of a weird one. I have this large mirror in my bathroom that I have a whole bunch of like inspirational quotes or mantras, just written down. And I read every single one of them every day, morning and night, while I'm brushing my teeth. So it's That's just cool. Kind of a little bit motivational, but like reminding me that I do not have to break world records today. It's fine. Stuff like that. Highly recommend.
Awesome.
That's very cool.
That's awesome. What's your favorite horse movie, Dinah?
Seabiscuit.
Yeah. And Keelan, how about you?
National Velvet.
Oh, I love that movie.
Right?
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Oh my God. The pie. Absolutely. That's a classic.
Right?
Yeah.
And Keelan, who would you recommend to be a future guest on this podcast?
I would recommend my beautiful friend, Julia Wendell. She's been in a lot of different aspects of the horse business, but she's also a published author, and I think brings a super interesting twist because of being an artist inspired by her life in the horse business, as well as having actually been in the horse business for many years.
Awesome.
I have two people. Dr. Amy Grice. She used to be a partner at Rhinebeck Equine, and then she retired to start a veterinary business consulting type practice. So she's like super business oriented and has like lots and lots of good advice for solo practitioners as well as larger practices. And then the other one is Dr. Patty Hogan, who is like probably one of the few women I will actually like turn myself inside out fangirl over. I think she's absolutely incredible. And she has built this amazing practice and has a really great what's the word? She donates a lot of her time and services to off-track horses, which I think is absolutely amazing, both standardbred and thoroughbred. So she's really involved with helping off-track horses and is a successful businesswoman as well as amazing surgeon. So
awesome.
Well, thank you so much, guys, for joining us. And we really love talking with you and learning more about what you do. And I think so much of what you spoke about relates to any kind of business that someone can have. So we appreciate your time and your candor in this conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah,
awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
I really love talking to Keelan and Dinah today. And I really enjoyed how candid they were about their businesses and, the challenges that they have in running them as solo practitioners.
Yeah, I think that most people don't realize, how much it takes to be a veterinarian and, what they do and how they run businesses, because sometimes even in the big practices, we walk in, we get what we need done and we leave. And so to be able to kind of peel back the curtains and say, these are what we struggle with, I think it's good. So then people can kind of carry that on when they're interacting with their vets.
Mm-hmm, for sure. And like Keelan said, like have the empathy for the job that they do and, the difficulties around it. And it was interesting to see so many parallels with the farriers that we spoke with, in terms of not being taught how to run a business when they're in school. They learn how to be a vet and not how to be a business person. And I really think that needs to change, and there needs to be more information for people before they come out of school. And so they're learning, some basic, bookkeeping and business management and that sort of thing. So they're better equipped to actually be a vet and everything that comes along with it besides just treating the horses.
Yes. And there's so many different levels to their businesses, right? Because their main focus is treating the animals, but then they have all of these other things that they need to get done to run an actual business. And I also think that an important part that they touched on was about wellness and taking care of themselves. And I mean, I think that that's big in most businesses, because many times we're all doing so many different things and running in so many different directions that we forget about that part. And I think especially for people who are so physical in their job, I'm thinking specifically like trainers and riders, and people who work in barns, a lot of times you just keep pushing through, and you know what, there are services available out there for you that maybe you can't afford to do it all the time, but maybe take the time to spoil yourself once in a while to, help with your general wellness. And I know that's something that Dinah she does a lot, because she wouldn't be able to do her job, and she does it much better by taking care of herself.
Right. And I think, there's that saying, like for new mothers or mothers in general, like you have to take care of yourself first, because if you're not healthy, you can't take care of your baby and your family. And I think that should be not just for mothers, it should be for, people in business. Like you say, like they have to take care of themselves or they won't be able to do their job to the best of their ability, whether it's physical and mental. We touched on the topic of suicide in the veterinary profession and how high the percentage is. And that's really scary to think about. And, Dinah herself even had a personal connection to somebody that happened to, and, being able to say, I've got to take care of myself first at some point, that needs to be the number one priority.
Oh, absolutely. And, I actually, when my company has dove into supporting this, it's called Not One More Vet. And I'm really happy that they did, but we had somebody who had worked with us at the company who did commit suicide after he had left. He'd been gone a couple of years. So it even reached me and affected me in knowing, somebody that, I spend time with. And so I do think that people really need to think about how they're interacting with veterinarians, and not just on the equine side, on the animal side. And I know it's expensive, but you have to understand how much that it is costing these people. And you know what? It's not maybe necessarily their fault at the cost. They have to purchase it from other places, right? So there's a whole long line. It's kind of like the whole medical system, healthcare system in the US, right? It's right. There are some issues. So, I think that the more conscious you can be about how you treat them and approach them, because they really are trying to do the best for your animals. They didn't spend all that time in school to do the wrong thing. They really do want to do what's best for you, for your animal. And so, I think that it is scary. And I do think that wellness is a big part of it. And I think that everybody in business can kind of take from that and say, okay, you know what, let's not go down the road of the veterinary industry that is having all this burnout and having all these issues, and be a little proactive and start, taking care of your wellness part of it, whether that's a massage or a therapist, either one. Yeah,
totally.
So anyway, I really thought it was a good chat. I really thought they were very open and, really gave us a sense of what it's like to be in their business and running a business, and so much transfers to everybody else's business.
Exactly. Yeah, it was great.
Yes, it was a great chat today, but we're running out of time. So on to the next. Find the links to today's guest and the show notes at www.eqbusinesswomen.com. Equestrian B2B is out twice a month on the 1st and the 15th.
You can find out more at eqbusinesswomen.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Find Equestrian B2B wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to follow, subscribe, and leave a review. You can have all 20 plus shows of the Horse Radio Network with you wherever you go with their free app for iPhone and Android. Go to your app store and search Horse Radio Network.
Now, go be kind to your veterinarian.